Prepare to be amazed as we push the boundaries of what's possible with the all-new MacBook NEO. You're currently witnessing Grand Theft Auto V running at an incredible 90 frames per second on this machine. This is just a glimpse of the unexpected performance we'll uncover as we test games like Elden Ring and the brand new Crimson Desert, titles never intended for Mac, especially one powered by the same A18 Pro CPU found in the iPhone 16. For those who've been following our journey, you know we've thoroughly explored the MacBook NEO's gaming potential over the past few days. To optimize performance and prevent thermal throttling, we implemented a significant cooling modification. This started with a copper sheet mod, which proved highly effective, but we took it a step further by integrating a thermoelectric liquid cooler, dramatically lowering temperatures and ensuring consistent peak performance. If you're curious about the details of these modifications, you can find the dedicated video in the description. As you saw earlier with Grand Theft Auto V, and with our tests including Red Dead Redemption 2, there are primarily two approaches to gaming on the MacBook NEO. First, you have native Mac games available directly from the App Store or through Steam. Installing Steam on your Mac allows you to filter for Mac-compatible titles by selecting the Apple logo within the client. However, the selection of native Mac games can be somewhat limited. Fortunately, there's a powerful workaround: running Windows games on your Mac. We've been extensively testing an application called Crossover, a solution we particularly favor. Crossover leverages wine containers to enable a vast array of Windows games to run seamlessly on macOS. For instance, we've installed the Windows version of Steam via Crossover, allowing the MacBook NEO to emulate a Windows environment and run your preferred Windows titles. It's important to note that not every game will be compatible, and online compatibility lists are a helpful resource. Moreover, we must remember that the MacBook NEO is not inherently designed as a gaming machine. Its A18 Pro CPU, while powerful for an iPhone 16 chip, makes its performance with Crossover truly remarkable. Before diving deeper into Windows titles, let's explore some native Mac games. In our initial video, we covered several titles, including Cyberpunk 2077. But based on popular demand, we're focusing on a few specific requests today. For these initial 3 games, the setup is straightforward. Simply download them directly from Steam, as they are fully Mac compatible. The key difference in our setup, compared to most, is the copper sheet cooling mod we implemented, which significantly boosts performance. Without this modification, a demanding game like No Man's Sky might struggle around 32 frames per second when thermal throttling occurs. However, with our enhanced cooling, we're now consistently seeing frames in the mid-70s. This is achieved at 800p resolution with medium settings and the metal scaler set to quality. Next up, we have the brand new title, Crimson Desert. While its performance doesn't quite match No Man's Sky, it's still remarkably impressive to see it running as well as it does on the MacBook NEO. We can achieve a stable 30 frames per second. Currently, I'm running it at 720p resolution. For some reason, 800p wasn't an option upon startup. A standout feature in Crimson Desert, and one I'm personally seeing for the first time, is Apple's new metal frame generation technology. With the upscale mode metal effects set to balanced and frame generation enabled, the visual fluidity is noticeably enhanced. Had the game supported FSR frame generation, it would indicate that, as someone who doesn't game extensively on Mac, I'm unsure if this technology is present in other titles, but I sincerely hope to see it implemented across all metal-supported Mac games. This would be a game changer for lower-end setups like the NEO. Realistically, we won't hit 60 frames per second here, and even consistently reaching 40 frames per second is a challenge. However, considering we're working with an iPhone 16 CPU and only 8 GB of unified RAM, which serves both system and video memory. This performance is quite extraordinary for a new release. I anticipate improved performance with future developer optimizations. While a continuous 60 frames per second might be out of reach for the MacBook NEO, I believe 45 frames per second could become achievable within a few months. This game is fully Mac supported, and while I've set it to the lowest available settings, it also features automatic 4-ear max settings that optimize performance without reducing everything to absolute low, which the NEO truly benefits from. Overall, it runs seamlessly through Steam without any special configuration. Next, we tested Subnautica below zero, and the results are impressive, reaching up to 100 frames per second at medium settings. The game defaulted to a somewhat unusual resolution of 1408 by 881 pixels on this display, which is slightly above 800p. Visually, it looks fantastic, with only occasional minor stutters that don't detract significantly from the experience. With the native Mac titles covered, let's shift our focus to the exciting realm of Windows games running on the MacBook NEO via crossover. Our first Windows game is Elden Ring, running at 800p with low settings. And with our performance monitor visible in the top right corner, you'll observe that while we don't hit a consistent 60 frames per second, the gameplay feels remarkably smooth for frame rates peaking around 40 frames per second. Having extensively tested Elden Ring on various low-end integrated GPUs on Windows, I can confidently say it rarely feels this fluid at similar frame rates. Moving on, we have Fallout 4, Game of the Year Edition. We opted for this classic rather than the newer version, sourcing it from GOG. Through crossover, we can run games from various platforms, including GOG, Steam, and even Epic Games. For Fallout 4, we're using high settings at that unique resolution of 1408 by 881 pixels, which aligns with the display's aspect ratio. While some games defaulted to 720p or 800p, others, like Fallout 4, utilize this slightly higher resolution. At high settings, the game feels fantastic and is entirely enjoyable in its current state. It's no surprise that smaller 2D and indie games excel on this setup. Take Marvel Cosmic Invasion, for instance. There aren't many graphical settings to tweak, but as a 2D beat-em-up, it consistently runs at 60 frames per second, delivering a perfectly smooth experience. It's a prime example of a game that, despite its simplicity, isn't natively supported on Mac, which I believe should change. Next, we put Skyrim, Special Edition, to the test, running it at medium settings with the 1408 by 881 pixel resolution. I suspect we could even push this to high settings. Initially, I planned to use the original Skyrim, but discovered the Special Edition not only works, but in some instances, performs even better. As you can see, it's fully playable on the MacBook NEO. Now, let's revisit Grand Theft Auto 5. Running at normal settings and 800p resolution, our performance overlay clearly shows the impressive frame rates. Even in expansive open-world areas, we're hitting up to 90 frames per second, which is exceptional. This level of performance suggests we could easily increase the settings to high and still achieve a locked 60 frames per second. Although it's an older title, we're using the legacy version. While I initially considered the enhanced edition for its FSR scaling, the legacy edition proved to be the optimal choice for the NEO, delivering truly outstanding performance. Finally, we're pushing the MacBook NEO to its absolute limits with Red Dead Redemption 2 running via crossover. This particular title presented some quirks, as I was unable to achieve a true full-screen experience. Observing the temperature readout at the top, you'll notice that even with our extensive cooling modification, the system is working hard. Realistically, there's little room to improve performance beyond what we're seeing here, primarily due to the NEO's RAM constraints and the inherent CPU and GPU capabilities. I attempted to enable FSR scaling, but unfortunately, it consistently led to game crashes. Therefore, this represents the current performance ceiling for Red Dead Redemption 2 on the MacBook Neo. While not truly playable, with frame rates often dipping below 30 frames per second in open areas, I did observe occasional peaks of 40 frames per second indoors with reduced draw distance. Despite these limitations, it's still quite astonishing that this setup can even launch and render such a demanding title. So, while the new MacBook Neo undeniably demonstrates its capability to run a wide range of Windows games through crossover, the question remains, is it a worthwhile purchase specifically for gaming? In my opinion, probably not as a primary gaming rig. However, if your gaming preferences lean towards indie titles and 2D games, you'll certainly have an excellent experience. As this video has shown, many games run surprisingly well on the Neo, but it's crucial to understand that it's not designed as a dedicated gaming machine. Furthermore, to achieve the sustained performance levels you've witnessed today, some form of cooling modification is essential. You can find a link to our detailed cooling mod video if you'd like to explore that further. That concludes our extensive look at gaming on the MacBook Neo. If there are any other games or applications you'd like to see tested on this device, please let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching.